Welcome back to our special Labor Day edition of World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley here in Washington, D.C. Now, from this perspective of looking at a left challenge to Obama, left anti-war, pro-New Deal, pro-labor, anti-Wall Street challenge to Obama in the primaries, as well as getting some candidates in that direction going in the 2010 election. Let's look at some of the components of this. Let's look, first of all, at labor. What's the situation with labor? Well, it's obviously quite bad. You have this guy, Rich Trumka, who comes from the United Mine Workers Union, and he now seems to be the new head of the AFL-CIO. This is not good. I'm afraid I have to ask some questions. I've been following this guy's career for the past 10 years or so. About 10 years ago, there were all kinds of rumors that Trumka was about to be indicted by the Department of Justice under Clinton. This is sort of the Abscam Brylab division of the Department of Justice. And now he's the head of the AFL-CIO. And I think you have to take everything Trumka says with a grain of salt. You know, some of these unions have been put into receivership by the Department of Justice, right? The Teamsters were run for a while by government-imposed commissars. That was under Clinton. I'd have to ask, dear Trumka, what is your relation to the Federal Witness Protection Program? Have you been threatened with indictment, and are you being blackmailed by the government to say one thing and not the other? And is there some kind of shadow over you based on these old charges that could be revived? And could you be manipulable, blackmailable in this sense? Because we know that government extortion is quite a common thing against the labor movement. Let's also look for a second again at the AFSCME, the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees and related unions. What is the impact on AFSCME when you have these furloughs everywhere that they're trying to challenge in some cases? They seem to be losing in the courts. We've had Obama supporting and validating through his nomination of Geithner for the Treasury and his confirmation of Bernanke. Obama's a big supporter of the bailout. I think in many ways all of Obama's troubles right now begin with his fateful decision, which really was not his decision at all, made by his masters, to support the $700 billion bailout for Wall Street, indeed to arm twist the Black Caucus, to force them to do what they otherwise wouldn't do, i.e. vote for that monstrosity. So now we got all kinds of government money going into parasitical financial institutions, banks, brokerages, money market funds, insurance companies, credit card companies, anything that's financial and parasitical, you get 0% credit. But what happened to the states? We've got the California budget crisis, $25 to $30 billion needed there. If the bailout money had been transferred to the states, we could be maintaining health, education, police, fire, libraries, and other vital services. It's not happening. So therefore, all the states from California to Maryland are all engaged in furloughs in New York and Illinois and all the rest of them. Right? Governments are shutting down. Rhode Island shut down for a day. Court battles, labor movement losing. Is this not also a conscious union-busting strategy by Obama, realizing that if you don't transfer money to the states to maintain essential services, the cuts and the austerity will be gouged out of the unions? The other question, of course, the teachers' union. You got this Arnie Duncan. During July, August, there was a lot of noise about Obama's $4 billion, which he's dangling as bait to states, municipalities, counties. It's bait to set up charter schools, to impose merit pay, to abolish seniority and tenure, and generally to bust the teachers' union. It couldn't be more clear. The baseline commitment, you could see with Obama even during the election campaign, he demanded merit pay because his family business, from the Ford Foundation to the Joyce, the Woods, the Gamaliel, the Annenberg, and the MacArthur, is to bust unions. That's what foundation operatives do. They are pimps, poverty pimps. They're union busters. They're scabs. That's Obama. So he's busting the American Federation of Teachers, using this $4 billion chicken feed to get people to go for charter schools where there's no union, merit pay, no tenure, no seniority, and other union busting measures. So unions looking not so good. The other thing you'd look for if you wanted to mobilize an anti-war opposition is the Pacifica radio network. Now, this would be WBAI New York, WPFW here in Washington, KPFA Berkeley, San Francisco, KPFK Los Angeles, and the other station in Houston. So this is your basic 5 FM stations. A lot of this stuff syndicated around the world. What's going on at the Pacifica network? Now, the question is germane because back under Clinton in the late 90s, there was a really big attempt to muzzle and essentially neutralize the anti-regime criticism coming from Pacifica stations against the left flank of Clinton Gore in those days. And this seems to be happening again. Back then, it was this awful Mary Frances Berry who joined with Robert Coonrad, some guy who had connections to the intelligence community, who then went on to become the head of Jose Marti Radio, broadcasting U.S. propaganda vis-a-vis Cuba. He went on to become the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. They tried to muzzle and essentially denature the Pacifica network. Now, this time around, the main perpetrator, the main operative who is essentially trying to take down the Pacifica network is a certain Grace Aaron. Grace Aaron being the chair of the National Board of Directors of Pacifica. She's also interim executive director. Her roots are thought to go into the area of Scientology. And what she's masterminding is a demolition of the news departments of Pacifica Radio. She's attempting to take down the Spanish language programming that's going on. Generally, it's amazing. She seems to have something against the black community and the Hispanic community in terms of programming that would be of interest to them. And they're various allies of this Grace Aaron in various stations. Naturally, we can't forget Amy Goodman with her privatized Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman pretending to be neutral, but in reality, I think, being a beneficiary of what Grace Aaron is doing. In any case, Amy Goodman thought to be siphoning significant amounts of resources out of the Pacifica network and into her own privatized Democracy Now. So this is another front. If you're going to have some kind of an anti-war, pro-union, anti-Wall Street opposition, this is one of the places where it would begin. And instead, a lot of the best people in Pacifica are now being muzzled. They're being their wages are being suspended. The websites that cover this: Indie Media of Santa Cruz, California, I believe, has some stuff. Info Media of San Francisco, and Pacifica Resistance. These are places where you can look at what's going on in Pacifica. So between the unions and this area traditionally to the left of the Democratic Party, anti-war opinion above all. And then that leads us back to Cindy Sheehan's yeoman service in Martha's Vineyard, which has unveiled the terrible cynicism of these so-called peace movement groups who are more concerned about their foundation funding, which tells them not, and we're trying to get it back if they've lost it. You can see the idea is that the foundations have withdrawn their support for the peace groups, and this entire area where Pacifica operates has also been drained of cash through various operations, including Ford Foundation-sponsored ones. So we'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.